Well, howdy there, folks, and welcome into today's video. Hope you guys are doing great out there as always. So we have some stock market insanity about to happen. Earnings season is about to get nuts, okay? And what I want to do in this video here today, I'm going to take you through the companies that are reporting earnings this week. I'm going to take you through the ones that I am paying attention to and why I'm paying attention to these specific stocks. We're also going to talk about if I'm interested in buying any specific stocks that are mentioned in today's video and why. So that's what today's video is dedicated toward. There's about to be a lot of volatility. You're going to see a lot of stocks going up a ton, down a ton, all a dang round. Let's just put it that way. Earnings season makes for some stock market craziness, and it's very important to understand why certain stocks are going to move, how some stocks affect other stocks, things like that. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Hope you learn a lot from it. I hope you also just enjoy it in general. I hope it keeps you up to date in the market. All I ask in return is that you smash that like button. That is literally it. That helps out huge in the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate all you guys for being here. As always, much love. I'm over here drinking a pina colada, okay? And by the way, today's video is sponsored by my private stock group. And if you want to check that out and get a little educated on the private stock group, what you get as being part of that, things like that, check out the pinned comment down there. I actually made a 7-minute video that goes all into the private group, everything you get access to being part of that. A lot of people don't even know. So let's get into this, guys. So Monday, before the open, Tractor Supply Company reporting earnings, AutoNation reporting earnings. Nothing's interesting to me basically before the market opens. And that's good because this video is likely going to come out after the market's already opened on Monday, okay? So nothing interests me there, okay? After the close, you have IBM. IBM, blah. Okay, let's talk about that. IBM is a bureaucratic, fairly boring company. Some people have liked to play this IBM as a dividend stock over time. I look at that as just not. I mean, you know, some of these big old tech companies, they just get so bureaucratic. The old generation, they're just not with it anymore. Let's put it that way. Someday, maybe Apple and Google and Facebook and Microsoft and Amazon, maybe some of those big dogs will be like an IBM someday when they're older. But yeah, it's just, you know, it's one of those companies, like, they stick around. You're like, how do they even stick around? But they do. And, you know, they stay relevant, but they're never posting impressive growth. They're never, reporting impressive numbers, new product services. It is what it is, okay? But IBM's still a fairly big market cap, so it can actually move a lot of different stocks in the stock market in general, some Dow stocks, S&P 500 stocks, okay? Steel Dynamics reported earnings. Going to be interesting out of Steel Dynamics to listen to anything they have to say around inflation, okay? And especially in regards to any other products, okay? PPG, I feel like very, very similar situation there with Steel Dynamics, where it's really about, like, you know, the cost of their products and kind of hearing, you know, what companies like that have to say. Not stocks that really interest me from an investment perspective, just important stocks to kind of look at, see where their numbers are at, see what the commentary is from management team around, inflation, those sorts of things, okay? You have Crown, JB Hunt. Nothing else is really interesting to me after the close on Monday. Things really start to heat up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And just so you guys know, if it's anybody newer watching this video, like, you know, you're trying to figure out earnings season, it's essentially, you know, companies report earnings every 3 months. But not just that. You got to understand, Tuesday through Thursday, that's the big days. That's when companies are really, really reporting earnings, okay? That's when you're going to get the bulk of earnings, okay? Tuesday, oh, baby, it gets crazy, okay? It gets crazy starting Tuesday. This is that first day of earnings season where I really feel like, oh wow, we're actually in earnings season now, baby. This baby's getting ready to roll. Okay, so starting Tuesday, we got G-Man's favorite stock right there, that good old Ally Bank, okay, savings accounts. Hey, I might have a savings account with Ally. You know, usually pretty good when it comes to that. So Ally Bank, I'm going to be interested to kind of see their numbers. I know, you know, folks have been buying that stock, and I'm interested to see if there's something there. Usually trades at a very, very low valuation compared to most fintech companies, but Ally is to be quite honest, it's a pretty darn boring stock and pretty darn boring numbers that company's been reporting. Compared to most fintech companies. Let's put it that way, okay? Then you have Halliburton. Going to be interesting to see what they have to say about oil and gas sector or anything like that when it comes to Halliburton. You have KeyBank reporting, Travelers Insurance Company reporting there. Nothing I'm going to really keep an eye on for the most part there. After the close, it gets crazy. Netflix, right off the bat here. This one is big, okay? So if you think about Netflix, my gosh, did they have the perfect scenario happen for them, right? Rona, I mean, you make everybody stay at home. You close down everything. Nothing can happen for almost a year and a half, right? Who's going to benefit in a massive way from something like that? One of the biggest direct beneficiaries I could possibly imagine in the entire world is Netflix, right? I mean, if you got way more time at home and you're forced to be at home and there's really nothing you can do outside of your house, Netflix is going to benefit, right? And so it's going to be interesting to see what are growth numbers now that the world's opening back up, right? Now that they have this huge pull forward in demand, what does this actually mean for Netflix's potential growth or lack of growth, okay? I think Netflix for the next several quarters has a lot to prove. And I mean a lot to prove, okay? So I'm really, really interested to see, Netflix's guidance, what management team has to say about that guidance, how they're feeling for growth for the remainder here of 2021, and if they have any commentary about 2022. I doubt they'll touch 2022 as far as guidance yet. They'll probably wait until, I would say, next quarter to even begin touching that. But yeah, so very, very, I don't own any Netflix shares, and obviously I'm not short the stock either. I'm just very, very interested. This is one of the most, to me, of stocks I don't own, this is one of the most interesting stocks to pay attention to this earnings season, okay? So Netflix, United's very interesting. So, you really want to hear what they have to say about travel, okay? And not just like domestic travel, but how do they have any commentary about travel outside of the United States? Or maybe they don't. That type of stuff is what's really, really important. And, specifically, how is domestic business going, right? Like, how are these numbers looking? Are people traveling again? Are companies planning to travel again? We know a lot of companies use United, right? Well, are these companies starting to already book flights up again? Are they starting to book out to 2022? Is that something that's not even going on yet? Very, very important, United, okay? Chipotle CMG reporting also after the close on Tuesday. When it comes to Chipotle, great company, very well run, but the stock has been an animal, okay? Just to be quite frank, it's been an animal. Like, look at Chipotle's stock price. It's been a beast. You know what? Let me pause this. I'm going to pull up Chipotle's stock price. There we go, guys. I pulled up Chipotle's stock price, okay? So it hit a high of $1,626 a share not that dang long ago, but look at this beast. Oh, my gosh. Look at this. From the December-October lows, right? I mean, this stock was in the $200, $300 range. Look at that, $289 December 2017, right? This was coming off of basically they had an E. coli situation and other bad situations that happened with the company and health procedures and a lot of that drama, right? And I mean, this stock was in the $200, $300 range, and it has just been a beast for the last several years. Unbelievable. A lot of people don't like where Chipotle trades at P-wise. Hey, yeah, 109 trailing, 63 forward. Certainly not cheap for a fast food company and a restaurant in general. I don't feel like Chipotle quite has the hype around it it once did. I feel like 2012 through 2014, 2015, man, did this company have a lot of hype. It doesn't feel the same around Chipotle nowadays. However, it's still a growth company. A lot of people look at it as a growth company, and obviously there's investors wanting to pay, these sorts of prices for it. I mean, if this stock was half its price, it's very, very intriguing to me, right? A 32 forward P, okay, I could pay 32 forward P for Chipotle. 63, forward P is not, certainly not cheap for the stage that Chipotle's at now, okay? But they're a beast. I respect them. Going to be important to see what numbers they report there. Intuitive Surgical, always loved this company. Amazing set of patents on that company, and amazing just technology in general around robotic surgery. And just an incredible company, always working on big stuff. Intuitive Surgical, my gosh, you want to find one of the best performing stocks from, probably coming out of the Great Recession for the next, the years after that. Intuitive Surgical was one of the most impressive ones I could find, certainly in the S&P 500. Woo, amazing company doing amazing things. And, it's one of those companies, I don't know. It's crazy to even think this, but maybe one day like robots are going to do surgery for us. I don't know. They already kind of can help a lot. Maybe they do the whole thing someday. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Okay. But if there's one company that could pull it off, it would be Intuitive Surgical. Amazing company. Okay. Sleep Number's also reporting. Sleep Number. This is a sneaky stock. Okay. So obviously they've been interested in opening more retail stores, but the reason this is kind of an under the radar stock, because a lot of these mattress companies, Sleep Number, Purple, are benefiting from the fact that the real estate market has been really good. Folks have been wanting to move, maybe upgrade their houses, things like that, right? And so a lot of times when you do that, you buy new mattresses, you buy new beds, things like that, right? I can speak for myself. I just moved in a new house very recently. We bought all new everything pretty much. And a lot of folks do that, right? They might have been sleeping on the same mattress for 5-10 years. And all of a sudden they're like, let's get rid of this thing. Let's get something new, right? So somebody like Sleep Number benefits from that. As a real estate market benefits, mattresses companies benefit, right? It's just the way it goes, all right? And then Interactive Brokers. It'll be interesting to hear what Interactive Brokers basically has to say around how they're feeling around retail investors. They have a lot of retail investors that use Interactive Brokers, and it's not just retail. It might be some other folks as well, but a lot of retail investors, right? That are maybe looking for the cheapest way to use margin and things like that. Going to be interesting to hear what they have to say about the state of their clients and their customers. A lot of folks use Interactive Brokers because most of the time they charge the cheapest margin interest rates. Like unless you're in a position where you can negotiate those rates, a lot of times Interactive Brokers has the cheapest. And so sometimes they're dealing with more advanced investors over there because, most newer investors don't even think about something like margin, right? And it's going to be really, really interesting to hear what they have to say about the state of the retail market, okay? Wednesday. Wow. What a set of companies reporting Wednesday. And by the way, I'm not even showing you guys all the companies. I mean, there's even more than this, okay? Coca-Cola reporting. So interesting. I looked at Pepsi's earnings. Pepsi's earnings were really, really strong. Really, really strong. And it makes me think, is Coca-Cola or are those earnings going to be really, really strong as well? I don't know. We'll have to see. But Pepsi's numbers were really, really impressive, actually. Extremely impressive. Coca-Cola actually benefits in a big way from actually the return of sports, believe it or not. If you didn't know, Coca-Cola has a ton of deals with stadiums, arenas, sporting venues, and advertising at those venues, things like that. Ton of that stuff. Coca-Cola actually does some pretty good business in that landscape, right? And so, Coca-Cola is actually interesting to see kind of what their numbers are. Stock always trades a little rich for where I think it should trade at, considering it's a very extremely low growth company. And speaking about one of those, Johnson & Johnson, it reminds me very, very similar. These two companies, they always trade rich, right? And I say trade rich in terms of compared to their growth rates, the type of, P's they usually command, they're high. But, I mean, are there two more solid businesses you can possibly think of than Coca-Cola and Johnson & Johnson? Probably not. I mean, and these aren't just solid businesses nowadays. These have been solid businesses for decades and decades and decades. And that's why they, a lot of times deserve to trade at P's that are much above the market. Verizon's reporting. Going to be very interesting to hear what they have to say about the 5G rollout. This is something that continues to play out as far as them building out the infrastructure and in terms of them selling products for people to basically have 5G devices, right? And going to be really, really interesting to see what 5G adoption is like on the phone side. Sometimes you can get some glimpses of maybe even what Apple's numbers are going to be. Because sometimes Verizon will mention, if they don't mention a customer by name, you kind of know who they're talking about. This company is doing some pretty big stuff, or this company's doing some, big volume, right? And so you can kind of get that out of Verizon there, all right? VZ, and usually just, if you look at it on a forward P, usually if you look at a forward P, it looks insanely cheap for Verizon most of the time. And a lot of times it's just because they do hold a lot of debt, and people look at them as a very low growth company. and they pay out the majority of their earnings to shareholders in the form of dividends. Like you look at their dividends, you look versus their EPS, a lot of times most of that money is going to the shareholders. So it's really, it almost, a lot of people look at Verizon almost as a REIT play, where REITs, which even though Verizon isn't a REIT is essentially a company in which they have to pay out minimum of 90% of their earnings to shareholders in the form of dividends. Verizon has that type of vibe. They're not that type of company, but they have that type of vibe, and people treat it like that, okay? You have the hog, Harley Davidson. They're reporting also before the bell. So Harley Davidson's in an interesting spot, right? Obviously, Harley's pretty big in the boomer generation. Not like huge, right? But it's a lot of boomers love Harleys. But there's definitely an overall worry about the next generation. And do they like Harleys? Because for the most part, people that, ride Harleys, like if you get a mental image of somebody that rides a Harley, it's usually people 40 plus, right? And sometimes even 50 plus. In that, let's say 45 years old to maybe 60 years old. That's like usually Harley Davidson's kind of core consumer for the most part. And there definitely is some worry about this next generation coming up and if they're interested in Harley. Harley's always done a great job of getting that next generation, right? We'll see if that happens with the next generation coming up there, okay? And I'm not talking about the millennials. I'm talking about that generation, what they call them, Gen Z, whatever, came before the millennials, essentially, okay? NASDAQ reporting earnings. If you think about the IPO landscape, there hasn't been a ton of huge companies go public outside of Coinbase over the past, pretty much 6 months. Like there's just not a ton of big companies. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to hear what they have to say about IPOs. Do they feel like there's more IPOs coming? Things like that. Okay. Seagate, Anthem, Travel, Baker Hughes. Nothing really too interesting to me there. Okay. After the close, very interesting. Texas Instruments. Texas Instruments sells a ton of semiconductors. They're usually in most of the iPhone products. Okay. And they're just, sell a lot of different products in general to many companies. All right. Texas Instruments, really, really key to kind of gauge how the semiconductor industry is doing. This is one of the first, if not the first, big semiconductor company to report earnings this earnings season. And so, yeah, we're going to get a glimpse of how the semiconductor industry is doing, right? We saw Taiwan Semiconductor come out and report this past week. Decent numbers, decent, not amazing, okay? What does Texas Instruments have to say? Whirlpool, WHR, love Whirlpool. I've owned the stock in the past. It treated me well, made some good dividend money. I think I made some stock gains. I like Whirlpool. Let me pull up that stock price real quick. So when it comes to Whirlpool, if this stock drops on earnings, this is actually a potential buy for me in my dividends only account. So if you didn't know, in my private stock group, I have a public account, which we built, from very small amount of money starting probably about 3.5 years ago. Now I think we're up to 1.6 million or so. And then we have the dividends only account, which is the account I would potentially add this in. And then I have an options only account. And everybody can track all the moves I make in all those different accounts. And so when it comes to Whirlpool, this is actually a potential interesting play for me in relation to that dividend account. Because my goal with the dividend account is not to make some short-term gains in the stock price or something like that. I do hope to make gains over time, but it's mainly for dividend money. And, obviously Whirlpool's benefiting right now, right, from the housing market being really strong. We just talked about mattress companies going to benefit. Well, what's going to benefit? People selling, ovens and refrigerators and washers and dryers and things like that. And so Whirlpool's benefiting from all that right now. And, the stock's already off its 52-week high pretty good. Maybe it sells off even more, to be honest. What if all of a sudden, something doesn't hit? Maybe there's too much inflation and some of their costs, right? And maybe they don't hit the EPS numbers that folks are looking for. Hey, you never really know. Maybe the stock goes down and I buy it in the dividend only account. Something like that. If we look at, what analysts are expecting, 593. Look at that versus 215 a year ago. Keep in mind, coming off Rona quarters, Rona quarters for, a lot of these companies like a Whirlpool, they should just absolutely, crush the year over year numbers. But what's really going to be important, do they beat this or not? And then what is guidance like, right? 544, so they expected to kind of take down there. And then this is what a lot of folks are confused about, right? Expecting basically shrink in EPS next year. Is that accurate? Does that really happen? No one likes to be in a stock that is shrinking, right? If we show something like, if we pulled up Rocket real quick here, right? Rocket Mortgage. I don't want to go too far off subject here, but this is another stock. By the way, I hope you're enjoying this video. This is another stock, Rocket, right? In which Rocket, I like this one a lot, actually, as a long-term play. I'm not investing in it yet because essentially this is a company in a bad position, over the short term. There's no doubt. I'm looking at it as a long-term play, but look at the numbers, guys. Revenue is supposed to be down 40% plus, 40% plus, 30% plus for this year, another 17% plus next year, okay? I like Rocket for the long term, but this is just an awful stock for the short term, strictly because the numbers are just, they had such a huge benefit from mortgage rates going down, things like that, right? And so, once again, I don't want to get too off subject there, but that's a trouble sometimes. You have companies going backwards. Sometimes folks just don't want to invest in it. But somebody like myself that's investing for several years out and can collect that dividend money and wait for Whirlpool to, go up more to new records and the company reach new scales and things like that, maybe it's worth a little thing there, okay? LVS is in transition period, so they're selling out of their Las Vegas properties, which are the Venetian and Palazzo, two of the biggest properties on the Strip, and essentially they're going almost all in Asia, okay? Macau, Singapore, Asia in general. Talk about potentially getting a casino in Japan over time. We'll see what happens with that, okay? But Las Vegas Sands, I want to hear what's going on in Macau, okay? Macau has still kept a lot of restrictions on. This is essentially, I am buying call options right now in a company named Wynn Resorts, right? Wynn Resorts is a competitor to Sands, but they compete on the higher end, right? And I'm buying 2023 call options in Wynn, but really I want to buy 2024 call options. So any information I can gather, essentially, around Macau, how are restrictions coming off, anything like that is extremely beneficial to me. Extremely beneficial, okay? So Sands, I'm going to keep an eye on that, right? Kinder Morgan, CSX, you were talking about one of the biggest railroads out there. Very, very important to understand how the economy is doing in general, which the economy I feel like is in a very strong place right now. But CSX really is going to be the one to tell you that. CSX, FedEx, UPS, those sorts of companies, you really want to gauge how the economy is doing. Follow those sorts of companies, and you'll understand how the economy is doing, and follow their guidance. Okay, Discover Financial Services, nothing else really interesting to me there. Okay, what about Thursday? All right, let's get into Thursday. So you have Cliff's report before the bell. AT&T, which I look at as just a less interesting version of Verizon, essentially. American Airlines, another airline, is going to be very important to kind of watch, what they have to say about travel. Once again, kind of like, when we were just talking about United a moment ago. I think it's very, very interesting, especially for somebody like myself. Remember, we talked about Wynn Resorts, and we also, last week, I talked about potentially being interested in maybe some of the cruise operators if those ones continue to fall in relation to call options. Any information I can gather around travel, guidance, how travel's doing, very beneficial to me, okay? Freeport McMoran, Nucor is reporting, D.R. Horton. Yeah, I want to hear how the housing market's doing, but not really like how it's been doing, because we know it's amazing, but how are they feeling over the next quarter? Do they feel like there's going to be another great quarter, even better, or is it kind of like maybe a little slowing? Are they having trouble getting land? How's the lumber situation going? A lot of home builders are dealing with the lumber situation, how that's going, okay? Love Southwest. I love Southwest. Hey, if I had to book a flight tomorrow to, I don't know, Charlotte, North Carolina, let's just use that as a random place, I'm doing it through Southwest. I love Southwest, man. Just always consistent, right? And when it comes to Southwest, it's really all about domestic travel. And what do they have to say about domestic travel? Very, very important. How's those flights to Vegas? I bet you they're strong. Abbott reporting, Alaska Airlines reporting, Crocs reporting. Alaska Airlines, interesting play, kind of with Hawaiian Airlines as well, okay? Hawaiian Airlines, I might have to look into that one. Hey, let's just do it right now. Hawaiian Airlines, somewhat interesting, but not super interesting. I am keeping an eye on it. Look at it, fell 6% on Friday. This one continues to fall. I might pick up some Hawaiian Airlines. You never really know. Obviously the stock in the past, $30, $40, $50, $60 a share. Keep in mind, though, when it comes to Hawaiian Airlines, if I recall, I'm not 100% sure, but if I looked into it, I bet you they likely diluted shareholder value over the past year. So keep in mind, who knows if they ever hit that $60+ number again. Not to say it can't go up to 30, 40 here in the future. So if this baby continues to fall, guys, maybe this is another 2024 call option play for me. Let's say the stock continues to fall and it hits $18, $17, $16 a share. And let's say we fast forward to September. I don't know how I won't buy some call options. This is something like Hawaiian Airlines. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just very, very confident travel is going to come back extremely strong from 2020. Well, it's already starting this year, but really from 2022 to 2024. So, yeah, actually one I'm potentially interested in there, okay? It just made me think of it when I looked at Alaska Airlines there, okay? You have Intel reporting, Intel. Snapchat reporting. Snapchat's interesting. It's a different type of social media. I feel like Snapchat almost benefits more from the world opening back up, which is almost counterintuitive compared to every other social media out there. Every other social media I feel like is better pretty much when people are home spending more time. Snapchat's different. Maybe Instagram a little bit too, but Snapchat, it's really about people being on the go, doing stuff, and taking snaps. And anyways. Twitter, I definitely don't think they're benefiting from this, right? Twitter's got two bad things working against them, right? Twitter has, they kicked off Trump, right? And you can't deny it. Trump definitely got a lot of people on Twitter, right? And folks talking bad or good about him, right? And definitely probably a lot more people talk bad about him on Twitter from what I've seen. But needless to say, they kicked him off. And that can't be good for business in terms of you kick off somebody that brings a ton of interaction. You know what I mean? So that can't be good. And also just the fact that people are back doing stuff again, I also think that's less time to spend on Twitter. So I just think they have a double bad thing that's going to be working against them now. We'll see what that means for their numbers over time, okay? Skechers reporting. Skechers, I've looked into the company before. It's just, I've never felt like they've built a strong enough brand there, okay? Sam Adams, they've definitely always built a great brand, okay? Sam Adams, always known for the Oktoberfest and the Winterfest and a lot of the seasonal beers. And always trades rich, kind of like a Monster Energy, always trades rich. Just they're in the beer space, right? You have Capital One, Del Taco. Del Taco is a stock I've always flirted around with buying. I might have bought it once ever. I don't even know. But I've always, for the longest time, thought about buying that stock. I just never end up doing it, okay? I'll be interested to see what Del Taco reports. Amex, American Express, you know what? They almost kind of fall into the category of like a CSX, FedEx, those type of companies. You want to know how the economy's doing? What are people spending money on? Or are people spending money? Things like that. So Amex there is interesting. Kimberly-Clark's kind of interesting because essentially, they have to use wood for a lot of their products. What does this mean for the cost of their products? Also, there was a huge stock up. People were stocking up on stuff like crazy last year. What does that mean for a lot of their items this year? So that's going to be an important one to watch there, guys. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this video as always. Yeah, the stock market's about to be crazy. Next week gets even crazier, and the week after even crazier, okay? Much love as always, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. Don't forget to smash a like. I appreciate you guys in a huge way. If you want to know more details about my private stock group, everything that's included in that, check out the pinned comment down there. That's going to go into everything that's included. If you're interested in joining that, you can apply right there. And have a great day.